That is a radical thing to think and to say and to feel.
How do I know what I should believe in about why I'm created and why I'm here?
You have to get to the why of the belief versus what you're believing for. If you start building belief now, it'll translate into the next phase and season of your life.
Welcome back to another episode of the New Rules Podcast. It's your girl, Breezy, and I'm here with Mr. Adrian Crawford. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I am doing well.
We are in the local Tallahassee area, and it's like 40 degrees outside.
It is. It is definitely, hoodie season right now. So, shout out to everybody right now who's out there trying to find somebody to be with. So, during the winter season, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like, so anyway, it's a very random thought that just went through my head, but
Yeah, you can find a girlfriend or boyfriend, or you could buy a coat.
Yeah, it is true. That's a lot less expensive and not as complicated, so, for sure.
So a few episodes ago, we dropped, our last drop, the time of this drop will likely be 2 drops ago, that we filmed with Mark Sayers, an absolute icon in our books.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring that up just because I would love to hear, what did you think of it? What did you think of your experience?
Yeah, I went back and I've probably watched it like twice now. One, I did it just because, again, when you're interviewing someone, you're thinking about what's the next question. You're thinking about
what did it feel like being in my shoes?
Yeah, it's like I couldn't capture all the information. You're trying to be present in that one question, but then there's probably 5,000
questions going through your mind.
And so I'm like, oh, this is whatever. So I went back and listened to it. I think overall, I love the content, love what he did. I was not happy, I think personally, with how I asked questions, because I think that for me, you do a really good job. You're very concise with it. I don't think at times I'm concise with what I'm actually trying to say. Normally I talk my way to what I'm trying to think. And I think in moments like that, I think there was some time that was wasted there. And so that would be kind of the thing I wish I would have done a little bit better job of. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it was fun to watch you fangirl.
Yeah, I know that was the other thing too. It was true.
I feel like, I don't know. And in terms of as Mark Sayers goes, he is somebody that we listen to so frequently that really forms a lot of our thoughts. And so I feel like how the conversation was recorded was how you would be talking to him.
Yeah.
If you were having a one-on-one conversation with him, how you got to meet with Parker J. Palmer. I imagine when you were meeting with Parker J. Palmer, you were probably a little bit I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about this. So I guess I'll ask you a question in this sense. And I think that it's really rare that we get the opportunity to hear people real time have conversations with someone that they really look up to.
Yeah, no, it was, legitimately, if I could spend hours with someone, Mark is definitely in the top 2-3 people that I would spend time with, just because I really do believe he sees the world in a very unique way, but I think he sees the world for where the world's at. I think he's had history and context and proof of things that he's communicated actually coming to pass. I think and the other thing he sees underneath, it's not so much of oh yeah, there's these things, here's what's going to happen, here's what could happen, but he gets really underneath, and what he helps me with so much is understanding how you actually got there, right? I really try to find out the why. What he does, he helps you understand all the frameworks that go into place that actually got us to the places that we are right now. Whether he talks about, the idea of, post World War II and just, and really living in a world that was really built against charismatic leaders and to get them to manage things. And now the disruption. So now, charismatic leaders are starting to rise again. What does that look like? Mm-hmm. And so it always is super helpful. But yeah, he's one of those people I definitely would. And I also think too, when you're interviewing someone like that, I think it's just, you're super thankful in the moment to have that moment to be able to sit there and do that. And you're trying to manage, I will ask you a question for 5 hours. You sit on this Zoom call, but also trying to be respectful for their time and doing all this stuff. But he's so gracious. He was if his earbuds didn't go out when we finished the combo, he probably would stay on there for another 2 hours, because last time we actually filmed, that did happen. Me and him just sat there and just talked for another hour and a half. And so, super thankful for him. And yeah, it's really cool. And I think that's the thing about these pods. I met Michael Jordan when I was 6 years old, right? So I tell people, once you meet, in a basketball guy, and in the black community, that's like, we used to call him Black Jesus, right? So it's like, you meet Black Jesus, you're like, everything else is just downhill from there. So it's like, I meet people all the time. I mean, famous people, professional athletes, you know, people in entertainment, whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's cool. Like, I don't ask for pictures. I don't do stuff like that. But like a Mark or Parker J. Palmer, I have his picture on the wall. People who genuinely have impacted my life in very significant ways, 100%. Like, I want to memory. I really do. I'm like a fan. Like how people were fan over, you know, if it's a boy band, if it's people who fan over just rock stars, whoever it is. That's how I am with these thinkers. That really helped me.
Yeah, well, I'd also say too that I think it's not that you're like fangirling because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to see this person. I think it's that you just really deeply respect ideas. And I think that his ideas are just so fascinating to you. And then also the way that he interprets the world and where the world is going is so fascinating to you. And one of my favorite things that I get to do daily is I get the opportunity to be like in the room with like really big thinkers. And oftentimes we're in the room with people who are thinking like that. There's like this undescribable energy that happens where everything starts to get like a little bit sped up. Everybody starts to talk a little bit fast because everyone's just so excited to talk about what they see of the world. And I feel like it was an opportunity to really show that to those who listen to the New Rules podcast. And I think this starts to tie into our topic of the day, which we're going to focus on belief, our best friend and also our arch nemesis in many ways. But what was so fascinating is seeing real time, like there are things that you interpret or things that you believe about the world. So whether that be how you interpreted the evangelist response to Charlie Kirk, or what you believe is going to happen in the future with a World War III and what that will mean in an American context, like you think about those things regularly. And I get to see how often you experience doubt towards what you see and how you interpret it. And Mark Sayers is somebody who you deeply respect. So to hear him be on the podcast and say things that you're like, oh my God, I've said that, or like, oh my God, I've thought that. It's not necessarily from like a place of needing like validity, but there is something so, I think, just like human about somebody that you look up to and someone that you deeply respect in their craft, affirming some of the things that you're seeing and the things that you're thinking, and quite frankly, the ideas that you're building your life upon. And so getting to see that real time, I think, was really cool. What was that like for you to have thoughts and then you ask a question and then he says the things that you've kind of been communicating and thinking, but that you felt a little bit like unsure if you're really seeing it right?
Yeah. It's funny. There's a song by Bootsy, and it's like literally say, "Am I crazy?" Right? I feel like that's like my theme music sometimes. Like I feel like half the time I'm crazy because I being a level of a futurist, you see the world differently, and I think being in that moment now with someone who you deeply respect, who I know is very well read, very well studied, and here's the other thing: not just that, but he's very well measured in what he says. Like he thinks through it.
Yeah,
like
incredibly wise.
Yes, even off air when he was like, yeah, I got to think about this more before I bring this up. And I'm like, that is when you do, because this isn't just like, oh, here's just this random thought. I've been thinking this. I read this one thing. He's like, no. He takes it, listens to it, processes it in his wisdom. And so for me, it does. I mean, honestly, it does give validity because you're also like, oh, I know that he's thought about that. So I think that part was like, it was really awesome to do that. I mean, I've been in some other environments where those things are there. I also been in environments where, I gotten frustrated because I'm like, people are bringing out new ideas that you're like, oh, cool. I was thinking about that 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But now it's like, because of their platform, whatever, it becomes a new revolutionary thing, But I say that to say what I was always challenged on things like that. So I'm like, and I've talked to you about that. I get so frustrated. I'm like, well, these people have this platform. I was thinking about this 3 years ago. Why couldn't I have said this? And then like the thing I'm always checked with is that why does it matter as long as it's getting out? And that is true. At the end of the day, as long as right information and people are able to help communicate more to the masses of what things can really help, dude, that is important because, again, it's about humanity. When it becomes just about me, then that becomes really the issue.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Do you ever wonder how many things you don't say because you're unsure if they really are accurate, and then 3 years later you hear someone say it and you're like, I did know that? And so it's not it's not just a frustration maybe at like their visibility or what it is that they're creating. Like ultimately what's deeper is like, why did I not have the belief that I should have had for the conviction that I felt within the moment?
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think some of it is just identity, right? Just knowing who you are, and that grows over time. But I also think here's another thing. I think time absolutely confirms. It'll confirm or deny what you think your calling is. Because what you'll see over time is that you'll see those predictions right. You'll see that work produce that thing you think you are good at. Does that work produce that? Your writing ability, like you'll see that. Like you begin to see over time. You know, you see it all the time in athletics where a player where they're like, oh, people will forecast, oh, he's the next one. Well, you don't know that until time because you have no idea how that player is going to respond. We know we see their physical talent, but we don't know their processing speed. Basketball's a thinking game or football's a thing, whatever. You don't know those things. So like you can't tell till time happens. And so I think that is another thing too. Yes, there's a frustration where you're like, man, I should have trusted that. But then I'm also trying to be better at giving myself room of like, was that a real lack of belief because I was just scared? Or was that I wasn't really sure because I had evidence? I think now where I'm at, a lot of things I feel, I can tell because of like how my body feels about it, how I constantly see themes around it. I start people who I really respect. I start seeing, who think on like trend level, they're starting to have a little, when I start seeing that type of stuff, then I begin to be like, okay, now I begin to say, because now I've had enough history to show them my belief. And if I strike out, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I have a really high track record of not. So I'd rather just go ahead and go with it and say it versus holding back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'd love to kind of transition into our topic for the day, which really is about this. It's about belief. To start us off, you have been studying the great Winston Churchill for your whole life, really, but especially over the past month or so, which kind of started off the genesis of wanting to talk about this topic. So would you mind sharing what is it that you've learned about him that made you think at a deeper, more critical level of what belief is and how you embody it?
I was listening to a podcast called Modern History, and I want to say, and we'll link in the show notes the podcast, but when I was like listening to it, they open up and they talk about a quote from Churchill, and it really was a classmate of his recalling a conversation they had. I think they were 19 years old and they were in school, and he asked us, they were kind of talking about what they want to do in the future, and his friend I think said like, maybe work in Parliament, whatever. And it's like, and so, I say that's a big, audacious thing. And then you have Winston Churchill, who like his next thing, he's like, I think, and I'm paraphrasing this, and he's like, I think things are going to change. I think England's going to be in a lot of danger. And then he goes on to say, he's like, a lot of danger will come to England, and it'll fall to me to save London and to save England. And it was like, he was 19 years old. And when you follow his life, he just had this belief that his life was so significant that he believed at 19 years old that he was actually going to be someone to save London and England. And that wasn't until he was 66 he became prime minister, and he actually did, and he's known as the greatest Englishman that ever lived. And so, like, the truth is, I was looking at them like, what would give somebody like that type of belief when like you don't know? Like that is a radical thing to think and to say and to feel. But what would allow him, and how did he do that? But it also made me think about how powerful actual belief is. Belief changes things. I mean, belief can make, those who are like, who maybe from an average talent gap take a next big step up because they just believe. And I just think that that's one of the most fascinating things. And I think it's also fascinating for me because that's something I've always had, like belief, like itself, belief, whatever, is something I've always struggled with. But now I'm realizing in this phase, and also what's in front, that like belief is so, so important.
So when Churchill stated that he believed that essentially saving London and England in the future would be his responsibility, do you think that his innate belief is what essentially acquired that responsibility? Or do you think it was a genuine like call that he then recognized and had to step up to? Or do you think it was like he had that belief, and so then because he had that belief, he could assume that responsibility?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture. I think it's a mixture of an innate understanding or belief that was there, or something, whether it was, it was premonition, prophetic, whatever it was. There was something he felt there. I think the other thing, his background. So that's why I wanted to study him, because I was like, okay, what would do that? And then you start looking at all the factors that go into his life. You go into the factors that, his mother, his mother and father were incredibly absentee in his life. And he genuinely just wanted his mother's love. But his mom was like, dog, it's crazy. When you read about Winston Churchill's mom, you know what I'm saying? It's a wild thing.
Is
because
she giving like Lincoln's wife?
She wasn't crazy like Lincoln's wife, but she was just in them streets though. Like Churchill's mom was like legit in them streets. And so
not expecting it.
Yeah, 100%. Future would have wrote a song about her for real. But he was like, so it was like she was more concerned with being this, like, more being in powerful places and being seen, not being a mom. And it was like, and he just desired him. And so he went to boarding school. So pretty much got shipped off. His father, again, because of this, had his own sets of issues and things like that. And so he had this innate thing. He just was trying to prove to his mother and his father, oh, no, I am someone. And he had a caretaker who really put belief in him too. It was someone, and I forgot the name of the woman who was, but that's one thing that he talks about, is she just put an innate belief in him too, of how special he was, how great he was going to be, because of, like, and I think some of it was just his circumstances where he didn't feel that. She put that there. And so I think that's a part of it. I think it was something that was already there. And then also I think it probably was a reality. There was a futurist part of him that could see, man, things are going to shift, things are going to change. And his upbringing kind of built those things in him that allowed to have that type of resilience to believe that.
Do you think, based off what you've studied, when he was saying that at 19, that majority of people were looking at him and thinking, like, what are you talking about? Were they thinking, that's crazy, but maybe?
No, a lot of people did not like him. They thought he was like really like this war hawk, and that's what we would call it today. Somebody who's like always like trying to go into some type of battle. And so for him, most people thought he was crazy, because during that time they just had World War I. So when you just talk about you just had World War I, then the thing about, you think you're going to have another one within the course of the next 20 some odd years, you're going to have another world war. That's crazy. But he always was like talking about that. So honestly, I think a lot of people thought he was crazy. He was arrogant. He was just this guy who was insecure, he was trying to narcissist. He was trying to become whatever. And so I think that was kind of the perspective of him.
What do you think is the tension between like crazy belief in something versus foolishness?
Yeah, I like to say there's a reality of faith, and there's idiot faith, right? Like idiot faith is just like, would be something there's no evidence at all of that could be it. Like, so for example, for me to say, oh man, like, hey, I could go win a gold medal in gymnastics, right? Like, there's just no evidence. There's nothing. I'm not built for that. Even when I was playing, I'm 6'6". Like, there's no evidence to be grounded into that. I think that's the truth. There has to be some level of evidence. And what I mean by that, you think about Churchill, there was a leadership on him. So like, was there some evidence of like, yeah, he could lead, so that could fall to him. There wasn't any evidence of that it was going to go sideways with Germany, but there was all these other factors that were there. And so I think the belief is that, I think it comes down to this. For most people, the question I would always ask is, why do you have this belief? See, I think you have to get to the why of the belief versus like, what you're believing for, but why are you believing it? Because I think when sometimes belief gets bad and belief can turn dangerous is when belief is just about you. That I have this belief to do these things, and really at the end of it, it's just you. I'm going to find more success. I'm going to find more enlightenment. I'm going to find more fulfillment, whatever, when those things really won't bring that. But when you find people who have a real why, and it's usually about like a broader thing, that's when it becomes really, really powerful.
So I think that as it relates to belief, we'll probably continue to focus on like belief in mission and call, just because I think that's where most people tend to struggle, like how do I know what I should believe in about why I'm created and why I'm here? Why do you think that it was important for him to know that he was going to do that at age 19? Like, why was that even relevant for him to see or understand or believe in?
I think it was something to give him hope for life. I think that he did wrestle with depression some. I think when you look at where you should have been getting from your parents, a sense of belief, sense of belonging, sense of identity, he did not. And then on top of that, there probably was this internal drive in him that was like, man, I know I'm made for more. And so I think that was probably drove him crazy a little bit. So I think having that was important for him to be an anchor, to actually be able to tether him and anchor him into reality as he was walking through this life. Because if you don't have that, then what you do is you can just go through and you go from someone who has this great belief to then because the one thing I've learned, people with really great belief, their lows are really low. And so I think that it helped him actually be able to navigate life.
Why do you think that people who have strong belief typically also have a really low lows?
Because I believe sometimes their strong belief, it does flirt in the place of just insanity sometimes. And so everybody wants to, and we were talking about this yesterday, like everybody wants to be a part of a tribe. Everybody wants to fit in, right? So it's like all of a sudden, if you're out there, you got this crazy belief and you're just out here floating, like that sucks. And we only be like, yeah, I got one person, but there's like, 8 million other people like, yeah, there's no way that's going to happen. Or that's stupid, or whatever. You just start to feel lonely, and here's the other thing too. Belief, there's an emotion behind belief as well. So if you have super strong there, then you think about on the other side of that coin is going to be disbelief, and it's going to be super strong as well because there's that energy that's behind it.
Why as a society do we believe that belief is irrational? And I understand like what you're saying in terms of idiot faith, like when something, like if you were to say, I'm going to get a gold medal in gymnastics. Like, okay, yeah. But it feels like that really isn't as relevant of a conversation as people who have like these great aspirations or like a great belief in something that they want to do or want to pursue in the future that maybe goes against the status quo. And then everyone's like, you're insane. You don't say, like, why does that really, I guess, strike something within people to believe that that kind of belief is irrational?
People all think they're extraordinary. And I do believe human beings, just a human being in general, is extraordinary. But I also believe a lot of people are regular. And I think that if all of a sudden somebody starts coming with something radical, something bigger, something whatever, it makes you face the reality of like, oh, maybe I'm not as unique as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not as dynamic as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not whatever that thing may be. Because when you bring somebody who starts to have a belief, it raises the standard. And here's the other part about it. Human beings many times just want to stay the course. We want safety. We want understanding. We want control. And so when someone comes in to start trying to break up control because they have a belief in something that no one else has had, that's going to break up control. And so people don't like that. So they're like, whoa. It's what we learn about leadership. It's not about the fear of change. It's about the fear of loss. So now all of a sudden when you step in, like you think about Churchill, what Churchill was saying is like, man, no, we've got to start preparing for this. And people are like, whoa, no. Because they knew what would that take to appease. No, we need to go and just try to find a peace with Germany because you know what? We already went through war. We already went through this, man. No. And he was like, it's going to happen. And so what he was doing is forcing everyone to think different. And so when you do that, it raises the status quo, but it also forces people to like have a look in the mirror of where they're actually at as well.
So if it's true that maybe not everybody has this call, like, or this, I would say call like a Churchill that seems really irrational to believe in. What is like the day-to-day relationship with belief for majority of people, and what does it look like now versus what do you hope would look differently about it? Like, so you're saying that most people are regular. And of course we talk a lot about like you're regular, but when you believe that you're regular, you become extraordinary. So,
whatever people listen.
But,
no, I'm going to stop you because I get that and I don't disagree with you, but it's like sometimes we have to do all that stuff because of just reality. Everybody, because we've been built in this American context that we're all just these unbelievable, unique creatures who can like we're all called to be the next, like, no, billionaire. No, there's only been a few thousand people that have ever really like changed the world. And so I think that why that matters is because that's okay. I think it's this false sense of identity, this false sense of like in our own souls that we're not secure in who we are. We don't feel significant in society. And a lot of times it's not because people want to be different, because if they're different, they feel more loved, cared for, fed, whatever the thing is, versus like, no, if you like to be different, to be whatever, to be extraordinary, it should be the one to go change stuff, not just so you can feel better. That's the part why I push on people at regular, because people just want to do stuff because they want to feel better about themselves versus no, be extraordinary so that you can actually change some other people's lives. So anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So if the average person isn't wrestling with, I'm going to be the one to restore England from danger decades from now, what do you believe that the average person's relationship with belief is, and what do you hope is different about their relationship with belief in the future?
Yeah, like for an example with belief, when you think about if you're like a parent, just like bring it down there, but like because you're going through the day-to-day battles of just raising another human being, and as you go through that, you're seeing their growth, and you're seeing good moments, bad moments. And as a parent, there's so much anxiety that goes into that. There's so much fear that goes into that. And so what can tend to happen as a parent, our belief system for our children can be low because of our own anxiety. It's because we've seen like, well, I know how jacked up they are, the mistakes they make. And then also sometimes you're just like, man, I don't want to believe them because what if they disappoint me, right? It's expectation versus reality. But I think that every child has the ability to make an impact. And it's about being honest. It's about having a genuine sense of self, authenticity, all that. But I think believing in that kid to being what they really can be. That does not mean a belief is like, oh, your child's going to be Winston Churchill, or it's going to be LeBron James, or whoever it is. But what it does mean, oh no, your child has this ability to do this, or your child, man, they have this. And so how do you believe? And that's that's a real thing. That's something I'm growing in even right now. Even though I talk about belief from a big level, I'm dealing with that right now. And I think about that with Jalen, right? Like over the last, few weeks, since, there's been some things that have happened in a good way, right? Like, again, Jalen has worked his butt off. But at the end of the day, he got his mom's jeans when it came to the size. You know what I'm saying? He's like 5'11", and then it's like on the other side of it too, though. But to his credit, he got his mom athleticism, so that's a good thing. But he has been a kid that just with some of his struggles he's had with autism, whatever, he's worked his butt off. And so the last few weeks, he's a prime example of belief. And so he got into the game, and again, I don't know if Lauren has the ability to clip this and drop it right here, in the video, whatever, but he goes and he makes that shot the other day that broke a record and did all this stuff. But the thing about it is that Jalen just has this irrational belief in himself.
He has that Kanye level.
Yes, it's it's freaking irrational. And I'll be honest with you, for so long, I used to try to kill that. Because I'm like, no, you got to be grounded in reality, dude. You know what I'm saying? Jalen's type of dude's like, yeah. I could be president, at 7 years old. No, you cannot. Right? You can't. But what I started to realize about...
But the thing is, though, and I'm sure this is what you're getting into, he doesn't have this, massive belief in himself.
Yes.
He has this, crazy, irrational belief in other people and what other people can accomplish, both for others, but also for him.
Yes. And so that's what's happening. I mean, I'm watching him the other night. We are playing, as I work with Florida State, and I'll use that because again, people see, but working with him, and and I do the radio as well, and so I'm watching him on the bench. Every game, when we were playing number 10 team in the country yesterday, there was not a doubt. There was not one doubt in that kid's mind, that we were going to lose. We're gonna win. We're one of the best teams in the country. He genuinely believes that, and so the point of why I say that is, I think that. Even me as a parent, I got to that stage, me as a parent, I'm starting to learn, my belief, because of some of the struggles he's gone through, what am I believing for? At times I would try to as I'm starting to have greater belief for Jalen, things are starting to open up for me. I'm like, he drives me crazy with social media, right? Drives me up a wall. But here's the thing about him. He has such a personality. All of a sudden, my man's he's got bars. So all these people are following him. And he's like, yeah, this one guy is this influencer wants to do this. I'm like, how? I'm like, what do you do? He would write comments in people's sections. And it's oh, you go look at it, it's 5,000 likes on his comment. I'm like, what? I'm like, he didn't even say anything deep, But he just has that thing. And I'm like, oh, so for me now, the belief is okay, there's something about this And even though at times it can, and again, it's kind of going off, it can be driven by maybe his own insecurities, whatever, but there's still something there. And so now my belief in him has changed my view of like, okay, there's something there. So how do we figure that out? And so I do think, so parenting, that matters. I think in your relationships that matter. I think at work, like the day-to-day job, like, do you believe in like, man, what you're actually doing? Do you believe you can go in there and solve problems and do things creative and make things better? And like, is that because belief, that's one thing about belief, man, it translates. If you start building belief now, it'll translate into the next phase and season of your life. If you don't have belief, it's not like all of a sudden it's gonna carry one day. You're gonna get it once you get your dream job or whatever. No, you have to have belief starting, and belief is something that can be built on.
How do you choose what to believe in without having evidence?
I think the biggest thing for me is when I see stuff in the world that really begins to move me internally that could be better, because I know it should be better. See, I think there's a reality of that when there's things that you see in the world that it makes no sense, but you're like, that has to be better. But right now, if you say it, people are going to think you're crazy, but I know it should be better. I think that is the beginning of belief. See, belief has to come from a place, in my opinion, when belief becomes so powerful is when your belief has a very convincing why. And that why is about betterment of others, humanity, systems, communities. That's what I believe, to really grow it.
Would you consider yourself to be someone with a lot of belief?
Now I do. Yes, I didn't. Though internally I had belief. Internally I had belief of what the world could be. I had internal belief of what things could look like. I didn't have a lot of belief in myself. But I think now, and a lot of that too is like I've got belief because I've got greater understanding of self. Because when you are, somebody who's severely ADHD, so when you're severely ADHD, like it can come off as I was super disciplined playing basketball, but the other things I wasn't. Because I was bored and I'm like, my brain be all over the place, right? Or when you're working, like sometimes, if I get distracted so quick, and I'm not the type of person, like I have a couple good friends who they can get distracted for like 30 seconds and then like they're right back into what they were doing. Man, if I get distracted, it takes me 25 minutes to get back to what I was doing, right? And so I used to always like, man, I'm not going to, because then you hear these stories, all these great people, they did this, and they led this way, and they did this, and they were their schedules like this. But that was only one type of people. And that's what we like to see in America. We like to see, I didn't say America, but we're very they're disciplined, they can control their managers. But when you start saying other people, their stuff is wild. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I started looking at people who are very just different. Like, I look at, like him or not, I look at Elon. I'm like, yeah, he's just, you got to respect the irrational belief that you really think you are that confident you can get humans to Mars. Now, I have no desire to go to Mars. That's his thing. Whatever, but like the idea about what is created. But you think about belief, his belief that he can get humans to Mars. Think about what that's made. Like every car industry has EVs now, like electrical vehicles, right? I mean, the fact of the matter, when like you pull up to gas stations when you travel, like all of a sudden all these charging stations that are there. I mean, you look at the idea as well of like rockets into space. The fact that now there was only like, there was not that many private companies. Now you have all these different type of companies that are doing different things, and how he broke that up. You look at what they did with PayPal, all those things. He just has a unbelievable belief in something so greater that these other things become a lot easier. And so that's why I do believe that, and I feel like for me personally, that's where belief has really changed in me.
Do you have anybody who has irrational belief in you, and how has that impacted you?
Yeah, I do. I've had a few people. I think one, Dr. Zoda, like I think he has, he has like irrational belief. But what was hard for that, I didn't believe him. I was like, this dude's just codependent and he just likes me. So he's just going to tell me what I want to hear, right? But actually, the more I'm around him, he would say like, no, like I see this. When he would always tell me like, your EQ is off the charts. I'm like, yeah. I would say, okay, cool. But deep inside, I'm like, all right, whatever, man. This is the therapist saying to everybody, it's like this is the gig to keep it going. You know what I'm saying? People keep paying. But the more and more I start getting around other people and I start doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, like this actually is that. I think that's one. I think Wendy is one. Like there's an irrational belief that she has. And her irrational belief is different. Her irrational belief is the commitment to me, not so much to the ideas. It's just to me. It's like she's willing to be like, hey, if you think so, go. You know what I'm saying? And she's willing to adjust whatever in order to make that happen. So hers is more evidence. Like it's more, that's how she's wired. It's more works. And like, oh, I'm gonna support you in this way. Like if I go to her, like I don't go to Wendy to talk about big ideas like that because it'll just like she will literally crap on every last one because like her area, well, how's that gonna work? How in the world is this gonna do? And which again, that's how she's wired. She's just a very much so day to day. So his belief there. I think Jalen's another one. Like I think all my kids, I think they all have this irrational belief in me. I think you have a very irrational belief in me. And I think there's people around here, JT. I mean, there's I'm not saying, but that have like just irrational belief that like I can actually really do this. And again, for me, it's been it's really cool to see that. And then I think what's been really interesting of late is when you go outside of these worlds and you're talking to different people who if they're they're hedge fund people, they're in investment banking, private equity, whatever, they're in politics, and then they're like, and they talk, you're like, and they'll sit there like, yo, like you need to do this. Why are you not here? Why are you not doing this? And so I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, I think that belief is being there. And I think that once you start seeing that, it can really change stuff. Hey guys, I hope today was helpful for you. This idea of belief. What I want to challenge everyone with is this. What is something right now in your life that you see, that you notice, that you know can be better, that you know it should be better? Why don't you start there in your belief? Sometimes when we think of belief, we just hear these stories like we did today of Winston Churchill. We hear the stories of Elon Musk. Other people have these big visions and things they believe for. But belief is so powerful. Your children need your belief. You know, your spouse needs your belief. Your community needs your belief. Your coworkers need your belief. Belief is something that absolutely can change any environment and can change really the world. Until next time, keep writing new rules.